Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. And thank you for tuning into this Your Overseas Home webinar on mortgages in Portugal. I'm Richard Way. I'm a member of the Your Overseas Home content team, and I'll be hosting this session. It's great to have you all with us, whether you're watching live or watching our recorded version, which is available through our on-demand webpage. So in this session, we'll be getting all the meaty facts about the Portuguese mortgage market. So that will include the current conditions, the value, why it's worthwhile to use an experienced mortgage broker, the different types of mortgage available at the moment, and an idea of the deals available in 2025, and of course what to do next to start the mortgage application process if that's something you need. But it's not me who'll be giving you all that useful information. It's today's specialist speaker, and that is Alejandro Costa from Portuguese independent mortgage broker DS Intermediarios de Crédito, or he's just told me it's a lot easier to say DS Mortgages. Alejandro is based in the Algarve. He's an experienced broker who helps all types of foreign purchasers. So they get the right mortgage. So that's whether you're buying as a second home, you're buying a primary residence, or you're buying just purely for investment, or a bit of all of those. So welcome, Alejandro. You can hear us okay?
All good, Richard. Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you and everyone watching. That is correct.
Thank you very much.
Mortgage brokers, we cover all country, mainland and islands. And we shop around for best mortgages like mortgage brokers do. And we represent the client, not a bank. Okay. Good thing about our service is that we do not charge a fee directly to the bank, to the client. We charge the bank. So basically, it's like in the UK, I believe.
Perfect. Thanks very much. Just very quickly, we've got 30 minutes for this session. We can go over a bit. Alejandro has just introduced himself. I'm going to ask him questions. Hopefully we're going to cover off all the key questions, key things that anyone who is interested in a mortgage should be asking themselves. But we want to get you involved as well, the audience. So please ask a question. Hopefully something will come to mind. There's the question tool that you should see on your dashboard. If you click that open and type your question there, and then I'll pass it on to Alejandro. So Alejandro, you've just introduced DS Mortgages and yourself. Tell us a bit more about you said it's a franchise, so you've got offices around the country. How long have you been running this? Just tell us a bit more about it, the background.
Okay, so my background is law, so I own a lawyer's office, but I ended up opening several agencies of mortgages 5 years ago. So at the moment, we did over 100 million in mortgages last year. We did 580 deeds, and I can say that 80% of that is from non-residents from all over, US, UK, Switzerland, Germany, China, Dubai, you name it. So basically, we are experienced mortgage brokers, and we deal a lot with expats, non-residents, all of that.
Perfect. And I can see you're fluent in English, so the bilingual.
Went to an international school. I went to an international school. I studied. I did my master's degree in English as well. So.
Brilliant. You put us to shame here. You put us to shame. Okay, great. Thank you. Just tell us a bit before we get into more of the specific details about mortgages. What is the market like at the moment for people? For people, the consumers, if they want to get a mortgage, is it fairly liquid? Is it fairly accessible? How does it compare to other European countries as well?
Okay, for the last 2 to 3 years, we saw the interest rates, Euribor, which is the European offered rate, going up. But then we had some member states from the EU having some economic recession. So the ECB, the European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, its president, decided that they would lower the rates, and now it's in a lower trend. It's going down. At the moment, all provisions indicate that by December 2025, Euribor will be at 2% ish. Okay, so now we can approve mortgages at 2.7, 2.8, sometimes 2.5, fixed for a couple of years. We use Euribor, we use variable rates, mixed rates, and fixed rates. I would say that the market is favorable at the moment. Prices of properties going up in Portugal because of its demand. The demand is going up, so it's basic economics. A lot because of U.S. elections, a lot because safety, weather, Portugal just being classified as one of the top countries to live in by Forbes and other platforms and magazines. So yeah, I would say that overall it's really good. We're looking good, even for residents. It's good.
And obviously, when you're buying abroad, planning is important. You want to think ahead a bit. Is the general feeling that the Euribor is not going to suddenly shoot up again? It's going to stay steady for the next few years. So if people want to remortgage or redeem mortgages, or they want to plan a bit, they know they're not going to have any serious shocks. I know you can't read a crystal ball, but
good questions. It all depends on what Trump does when he takes over on the 20th. Because if he does what he says he's planning to do, raising interest rates, the Fed doing this in the U.S. to make dollars stronger, and so on, what will happen is probably the rates in the European Union will not go up suddenly, but they will stop decreasing because we need to do something to balance it. So it all depends on what Trump does on the following 2 to 3 months. Okay, I would say that at the moment the trend is to go down, and it was last year, even after the elections. But let's see what the decisions are after he takes when he assumes the country, and see what he does, and then the ECB will be dealing with those decisions in the best way possible.
Sure. As will the UK. Yeah. But certainly for Americans, if there are any Americans watching this, the rates that are offered in Portugal now will seem fairly favourable, given I think the average rate in America is between 6 and 7% at the moment. So if you are looking to invest, for example, then it's a bit more attractive over in Portugal with finance.
Cheap money.
Yeah.
We have a lot of Americans buying here because of that, because of the interest rates, and they can get 6 to 8% on the properties yearly revenue. So it ends up to be a good deal. And in the US, last year you could get 5% with the money just holding there and holding the money in the bank, but that is going to change. So many pro Kamala are now investing in Portugal. Like it's more of a, let's call it protest investment. But it's happening. It's happening already.
And as someone's just pointed out in the questions, you do have to factor in currency, because if it's long term, it's not so important, because you don't know which way the currency is going to go over a 10-year period, for example. But if it's a short term, then you have to factor that in as well with the stronger dollar. Okay, let's move on to the actual process of obtaining a mortgage. So you're a broker. You deal with lots of different banks. Just outline the benefits of using someone like yourself rather than going directly to a bank. Let's start with that.
Okay. So first thing is that we do not work only with one bank. We work with several banks, lenders, and we can get the proposals from all of them. And conditions differ from one to other. For instance, loan to value. The Portuguese Central Bank's recommendation is for the banks to lend for non-residents up to 70% tops. But however, because it's a recommendation, some banks push it to 80. So we know which banks, and we shop around for that. And then within those banks that do 80%, we negotiate the rates. And because banks know that we are a broker, they always give us the best deals. And they try to reduce the cross-selling they do on the client. Because if the client goes directly to the bank, they will try to sell them everything. Nowadays, banks are like markets. They will even try to sell you a toaster if you let them. So insurances, credit cards, everything they try to sell, even alarms for the property. I'm being serious. So when the client goes there, is vulnerable. Using a mortgage broker is like using a financial lawyer. We represent them before the banks and we find them the best deal. And because the bank knows that we will look for other deals, they will give us the best deal. And that's it. So basically, these are the main, and the client doesn't pay us a fee. So we charge that from the bank, and this payment doesn't go in the monthly installment of the client whatsoever. So all benefits. There is not
and I suppose another obvious one is the fact that you're going to be there helping with all the paperwork and gathering all the documentation that's required, rather than having no one between you and the bank doing that, which is a great help when if you're dealing in a foreign language.
Exactly.
And is it the case that you as a broker might get some exclusive deals from banks that they wouldn't be offering directly to someone who came to them, because you're a broker and you know that it's like an incentive, isn't it, to keep you as a partner?
Yes. We have had many cases in which the client goes directly to the bank. After that, they come to us, and within the same proposal they already have, we get a better deal on rate and other things, such as house insurance, life insurance that some banks demand. We dismiss it, or we have a special deal in which we can do it because we're also insurance brokers. We can do it outside of the bank, and it's way cheaper and way better for the client. And other things, such as the early repayment penalty that is mandatory by law, we dismiss it, and so on and so on. There are many benefits using a mortgage broker instead of going directly to a bank or losing the time to shop around in all banks. It's way better because we can negotiate and we know the underlines.
Perfect. It's anyone who's using a broker, they need to check that they're licensed, is that right, and approved by the Bank of Portugal. And these are quite important things, which obviously you are. Yeah.
If you search our company, Decisão Ordenada, it has the license number of 655556 in Portuguese Central Bank, Googleable, and it's and they see all the lenders we work with and so on.
Okay. Okay. If there's anyone who's thinking of getting a mortgage, perhaps they don't need to, but there might be advantages. What are the key things that people should consider when they're thinking about getting a mortgage? There's currency. How much will it add to the purchase costs of the property? Whether it's personal use or investment, and I guess their personal fiscal situation, whether it's if they've got a lot of disposable cash that they can put towards it or not. What are the things people should really be thinking about when they consider a mortgage?
Okay, so when someone is thinking about investing in Portugal in a property and using a mortgage, first thing, if the property will be for primary residency or secondary residency, because of loan to value. Usually, if it's up to 80% of secondary residency, we can the client needs to have 20% down payment, so pocket money, and then consider tax. that is on the buyer side always. So usually the tax you pay, that is plus the 20%. So 20% down payment on the property's price plus tax. So tax, you pay 0.8 on stamp duty and 6 to 7%, depending on the price of the property, of IMT. IMT is the town hall, the municipality tax. It's high. It's actually a big chunk. However, the yearly tax that the new owner will pay is really low. It rounds up to be 0.3% every year on the patrimonial value of the property, which usually is lower than the purchase price. Okay, so summing up, the client needs to have 26 to 27% down payment, and then there are other costs that need to get covered. One, an attorney, a lawyer, if the client wants to get represented and doesn't need to come to Portugal for several situations like final deed, opening bank account, and so on, changing electricity, water, in the town hall, all of that. The lawyer, the attorney needs to do that. That's an extra, let's say 1% on the price of the property. So we are on 28, 29% down payment. Then there is the notary fee for the final deed. Usually it's 800 euros, 700 euros, depending on the notary, but that is it. So usually I tell the clients that the overall cost to buy a property in Portugal is 30% of the price of the property. Of course, there will be some left, but to be fair, that's what I say. And then consider, yeah, please. You were going to.
Yeah, no, I was going to say. So the important thing there is that if you're getting 20%, if you're getting 80% from the bank, you still need to put down 30% because you've got the costs that the bank aren't going to cover. They're only going to cost at 20% of the valuation. And while we're on valuations, obviously, if someone applies for a mortgage, the bank's going to go and value the property. Are they generally coming in at sensible levels, close to the purchase price, market prices, or is there ever a bit of a gap between them, which can cause problems?
We usually, in 580 deeds we did last year, we probably had issues in, I don't know, 50 of those. So it's not a big considerable amount. And when you have something like that, because it's not the bank that does the valuation, usually they pick a random company to be independent and to have an independent valuation. They pick a random company to do the survey, the valuation. And if we have an issue with the valuation, we just ask for a new one. The client has the extra cost. But if it comes higher than the first one, the cost will be supported by the bank. So usually we tend to have the problem solved in this way.
Okay. Just to say, I can see the questions coming in. We've got a few, so we will get to them. But let's just cover off some of the other key things first. Let's talk about the process, Alejandro. So typical scenario: someone who might have been watching this, they're ready to start the process of buying in Portugal and apply for a mortgage. They send you an email, give you a call, and they want to appoint you. What happens next? What is the process to getting to that? Obtaining a mortgage?
Okay, so pretty simple. In Portugal, the banks, the lenders, generally they approve the mortgage under two conditions: solvability and valuation of the property. So the first stage is to approve the client on solvability. That takes around a week. And usually I even pre-approve the client in the first meeting. Using a CRM, I have a calculator. It calculates DTI, debt to income ratio. So for instance, may I share something? May I share my screen?
Of course. Yeah, no, please, yeah.
So for example, if I come into my simulator and I say the client is 40 and we're doing a 30-year long mortgage. Let me just translate this to English. So, for instance, and we're doing a rate of 2.8, which is doable, and we're putting the client is buying a 400,000 property and putting down 20%, and the bank lends 80%, 320,000 of the 400,000, right? And we are looking at a monthly installment of 1,300. Okay, 2.8 rate. And what I do with the client is, okay, so you're putting down 80,000 now plus tax, which I calculate after. I have a simulator for that too. Then I say, okay, what's your average income? If it's from sterling to euro, I do the conversion. But let's say the client earns 10,000 per month net salary combined. It's a couple. Okay, then I see that the effort rate on this is 13%. DTI is matching. Okay, but I have an extra mortgage back home in the UK, which sums up to be 800 euros. Okay, and I have a car loan of 250. Okay, and I have two dependents. I have two children. Okay, then I see that all is matching. DTI is green. I do not need to stress this on 3%, but okay. So I pre-approve the client in the first meeting. Okay, just so our invited guests that are watching us, for a 400,000 property loan amount 320, the monthly installment would be 1,300. Okay, and this is
That's
what
would that be typical today? Would that be something that is achievable today? That rate? Yeah.
outright, yeah.
Okay.
So if all is green, what I do is I ask the documents that usually a mortgage broker asks: Experian credit report, tax return, P60 for the UK clients, or self-assessment, pay slips, ID. I submit the file to the bank's risk department, several banks. We get the proposals, the proper approvals, and from then on, we can move forward for the valuation and final deed. All summed up, let's say it's a month and a half. Okay, if everything is documentation.
And when we talk about getting an agreement in principle, is that something that you would be able to offer once you've done the simulation?
Yes.
On day one, so because that's really useful for people to be able to budget for their purchase. Precisely. And they can go and look as a serious buyer then.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so they come to you, they have the meeting, they get the agreement in principle, and then you then apply for offers from different banks. And then at what point would they agree to an offer? Is it at the point of having an offer accepted on a property, and they would then?
Good question. So usually the offer in principle, I use this simulation I just did. I send it to one of the banks, and they send me an email confirming what I did, saying we have a mortgage in principle pre-approved. Okay, then we can use that. Next step is I have another meeting, me or someone from my team has a meeting with the client, advising which proposal to take and why. So this one is better because the app is better. It's in English. The APR, the annual percentage rate, is slightly lower in this one. The house insurance we can do here, so it's way better and lower and cheaper. So basically, we advise the client which one to take, and then the final decision is made by the client. We submit it for final approval letters and final deed.
Okay. And actual deals that you are securing for clients at the moment, or people can sort of expect if they came to you today, what sort of deals are people getting now? And just tell us, just explain as well about this mixed rate deal and how they are, because I've heard they're very popular as well at the moment.
Yeah. Many UK clients ask us if we have interest-only mortgages. Not anymore. So it's normal repayment mortgage, capital plus interest. And we use variable, mix, and fixed rates. The variable is just using Euribor, 3 months Euribor, 6 months Euribor, 12 months Euribor. It gets reviewed every 3, 6, or 12 months, depending on the Euribor we chose. And the mixed rates, which are the famous here, and at the moment. Why? Because since the Euribor is going down, I want to fix it for, let's say, 2 years, 1 year, 2, 3, 4 years maximum, and then the remaining it becomes variable on the 4th year, 3rd year, let's say. And why would I do this? Because usually, if I want to move from a fixed to variable, I need to pay a penalty of 2%. Or if I want to put down do an early redemption. That's why we do this rate. So since the rates are going down, many clients are taking variable at the moment to fix later on, or they're using these mixed rates because usually they are promotional. The mixed rates, they do, for example, we have for residents 2.4 rate fixed for 1 year now, so which is a pretty good deal. So we use that rate, and 1 year from now we renegotiate to another fixed for 10 or 5. Then the client decides, of course, or we even shop around for a new bank, new mortgage proposal for the client.
Okay, so you can renegotiate after the fixed period.
Yeah,
is what with a fixed rate. Yeah,
and you can release equity from the property. So later on, if let's say 2 years from the final deed, I decide that I want to do a new evaluation to my property and release equity from it to buy another property, I can do it.
yeah.
So basically, yeah.
Okay, and new builds off plan is a popular product in Portugal. Can you help people buying off plan? What would if they're putting a deposit down? Will you start talking to them at that point, or will they come to you towards completion, or how does it work?
There are some banks that work this kind of product because developers usually ask, the developers in Portugal like to build with the client's money. So what they do is they sign a promissory contract. They ask the client to put 20 plus 20 plus 20 in 3 months gaps. Okay. There are some banks that help the client with this. So the first 30% are from the client's pocket and the remaining are from the bank. But usually we need an extra guarantee from the developer. And that is doable. Okay. We have big developers that are our partners and we do this a lot. Like from one building, we did like 100 deals with them. So yeah, it's doable.
It is an option.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just conscious of the time. Let's get through some of the questions now. Samantha Campbell's asked, how does the bank offset the broker fee? So you've said that you don't charge a fee. The bank, you get paid by the bank for sending clients. Yeah.
So basically, the European Union decided that they wanted to make this as a profession in the 27 member states, and to do so, they decided that the banks would pay a fee to the brokers, but this fee doesn't go directly in the client's monthly installment, so it's not deducted to the client to pay the broker. Okay, usually we receive 1% of the financing. So if it's 100,000 financing, we get 1,000. If it's 150, 1,500, and there you go. So basically, this is how we get paid. Okay, The client may think that he needs to pay something to us, but he does not. If someone asks any money to the clients, that's illegal. Okay, you cannot ask money to the client. Some countries of the EU do charge, because when they change the directive from the European Union's law into their own country, they allowed that to happen. In Portugal, it doesn't happen. Okay.
Okay, that's a really useful point. So if you are charged anything directly, then decline. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had two people asking about getting a mortgage for a second home, perhaps one that you rent out to holiday makers. That's possible. Does that affect your loan to value rather than it being primary? But it's possible, isn't it? I mean, that's most of your clients are second homeowners, and they probably rent their property out to holiday makers. Yeah.
In Portugal, I get that a lot, because even primary residency you can rent out. Even primary residency. Secondary residency, no problem at all. You can get 80% financing and rent it out.
Perfect.
Long term.
The question. Long term or short term. Okay. Great. We haven't talked about any age restrictions on mortgages, but we've got a question here from Robert. He's 70 years old. He'll probably purchase a second home in Portugal this year. Will he still qualify at the age of 70? And how does that affect his loan to value and rates, etc.?
So the Portuguese Central Bank's recommendation is for the loans to be up to 75. However, because it's a recommendation, once again, some banks do up to 80. That's the maximum. I never found a bank that would do over 80. So 10 years is the maximum Robert has. So basically, Robert, get in touch with me. I will do some simulations, show you. And if it's retirement, we can use that income to approve by solvability.
Okay. Thank you very much. Question here from Andrea. She's obviously Canadian, or she's asking for Canadian. When you talked about the eligibility and how they work out affordability, is that applicable to all third nationals, country nationals, so Canadians, Americans, British? Yeah, and they'll need the similar documentation.
Yeah. The only countries that do not get 80% are the countries which its currency is really bad, or they are in the blacklist of the bank for some reason. For example, Mozambique was not one of the blacklisted countries, but now it is, because the north of Mozambique is controlled by Daesh, and so they're vulnerable politically. Okay, so now they became blacklisted. But there, for instance, Brazil, I have an issue approving 80% for them because of real. Real is really weak compared to euro. So in some specific countries we have some trouble approving 80%, but overall is 80% is it's okay.
Okay. A couple of final questions which actually aren't related directly to mortgages, but I'm sure you could answer them. I think I can answer the first one. Edward asks, are lawyers' fees for a purchase charged hourly? Normally they're not. I believe they're normally a percentage of the value with a minimum amount. Can be 1% of the value transaction value is typical, but with a minimum.
Yeah, it's negotiable, because intellectual work, which is what lawyers do, you have to have a provision of costs, because if you don't have a provision of costs, they can charge you whatever they want in the end, because it's intellectual work. But usually the provision of costs is around 1% plus VAT, which is 23% on the deal's price, on the price of the property. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you can negotiate that. So, would you do 0.75? Yeah.
Okay, good tip. Thank you. And another question from him is, you talked about the scaling of the IMT tax for properties for the purchase taxes. What do you know what the threshold is? Do you know what the different thresholds are when they go up, and especially when it gets to 7.5%?
Yeah.
Or is that something for later?
No, I'll share my my website, because it's all explained in my website. So if you go down
Brilliant.
to my website, you click here in English, you go to simulators, you come to IMT, and you have all the values down here. Okay, so let's say
Perfect.
it's okay, 1,200,000.
Ask for that. Look at that.
1,200,000. Okay, I get 7.5. Here it is, the table, right? And 99,600, because it's 7.5 IMT plus stamp duty on that 9.6, 9,600. So basically, you can calculate everything here. 300,000 property. There you go. All right. 300,000 property. 300,000 property. 300,000 property would be 13,000. Okay.
Perfect.
There you go. Okay, so basically this is how clients can come, and even they can even calculate housing loan mortgages installments. They can even see their effort rate, calculating their DTI in my website. So feel free to visit it. Okay.
Okay. What more do you need? What a place to end. We are well over time, but that is a very useful tool, I think, for anyone who's thinking of getting mortgage in Portugal. So thank you very much, Alejandro. Sadly, that is all we've got time for. Thank you to the audience for watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching a recorded version. You can get in contact with Alejandro at DS Intermediarios de Crédito. I think people get emails after this, or we've got the details of everyone who's registered, so you'll be sent information about contacting Alejandro. If you've got other questions, or you feel we're in a position or ready to appoint him. Of course, thank you very much, Alejandro. I really appreciate you giving up your time. It's been very useful.
I appreciate
All the best for the new year. Just a small request from our team here. If you found this webinar useful and hopefully enjoyed it, it'll be really useful for us if you could leave us a review on the review website Trustpilot. And I also have a save the date for you, which is the Your Overseas Home comprehensive virtual event on the 22nd of March this year. So just 3 months away, just under. So it's a day-long event where we've got you'll have the chance to chat to everyone, people like Alejandro, but agents, lawyers, financial advisors, all the different service providers who you will need when you buy abroad or relocate, and you'll be able to chat to them on a virtual platform in real time. And there'll be seminars, not unlike what we've done today, chatting to people like Alejandro, hopefully giving you lots of free information. You can join. You can register for the event through the link there it is, just popped up on the screen. So if you click on that, you can register. Otherwise, that's all for now. Thanks again, Alejandro. Thank you, everyone.
you.
Have a great 2025. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Richard. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.